Hi, my name's Holly. I work for Faces. We have a number of different services here. However, the one that I'm involved in is supporting young people and their families who have been affected by exploitation. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about county lines, what it is, what signs to look out for, and what you can do if you feel a child you know is being affected by this. So county lines is when gangs or organised crime groups, usually from bigger cities, exploit children to prepare, store, transport, deliver and sell drugs to smaller towns. This is sometimes across county boundaries and sometimes can be more locally. Children are basically used because they're cheaper and they're less likely to get caught by the police. Meaning that the elders and the adults of the gangs are less likely to face any prosecution. Children are very disposable to gangs, but they often don't see this, so that they remain very loyal to them. County lines is a form of exploitation. What's basically happening is that a person or group of people use their power and influence over a child to coerce and manipulate them into criminal acts. They use a variety of things such as intimidation, debt bondage, which is when they get the child into debt that they have to pay back. They use violence and they use grooming. Often it's children aged 14 to 17, that kind of age. However, we're seeing much younger children being targeted now, even 10 or below. And it can be girls or boys. So young people and children are recruited into county lines by a process of grooming. Firstly, they will be targeted and the exploiter begins to build a relationship with them in order to gain trust. Young people may be contacted via social media or it may be through their peer group. So the young person is then initiated into the lifestyle of the gang by being offered gifts and money and drugs and alcohol. And gradually over time, the young person becomes more and more involved in the criminal activities and they begin taking more responsibility. They may at first feel that they're undertaking these activities by choice. However, they will start to gradually feel very trapped and very kind of unable to leave the situation. They're likely being controlled through threats, violence and punishments. A common punishment is when a child loses money for the gang and has to repay that money, but with a substantial amount of interest that's loaded on top of it. Exploiters also sometimes stage muggings, where young people are robbed of the drugs or money and can subsequently be punished through violence. This is in order to create fear and a lot of debt to the exploiter. Gangs may trick children into getting into debt, for instance, by giving them a mobile phone or some drugs, only later to demand repayment for these things. The child will be then in something called debt bondage to the gang. So what are some of the signs to look out for? Well, firstly, they'll be returning home late, staying out all night or going missing. Young people may have to travel long distances to places that they don't know, visiting or staying in unsafe places, which are often called trap houses or bandos. This in order to deliver and or sell the drugs and return the proceeds to the gang. So they may be missing from home for several days at a time. There may be a change of friendship group. They may start hanging out with people that are a little bit older than them, new people that you haven't seen before. You may notice that they have several mobile phones or things like balaclavas, weapons, digital scales, things that perhaps they normally wouldn't have. They might have a new phone that's constantly ringing and receiving messages. They might have things such as travel documents, rail tickets, taxi apps on their phone, all indications of that travelling around. They may start to avoid school. There may be unexplained absences from school or college or training or work, whatever they're doing at the time. There may be an increase in drug use, or they may be found with a large amount of drugs on them. You may notice unexplained things such as clothes and jewellery, unexplained wealth, and you're not sure how they've been able to afford these things. There may be changes in behaviour, for instance, changes in what they're interested in. They may be increasingly disruptive or aggressive. They may show signs of withdrawal. There may be breakdown in family relationships. They may be using sexual or drug-related or violent language that you wouldn't expect them to know normally. You may also notice that they're coming home with injuries or looking particularly dishevelled and tired. As a parent or family member, it may be incredibly stressful and a really worrying time. It is really important that you remember that you are not to blame and that your child is a victim, despite what it may appear on the outside. Stay as calm as you possibly can. Talk to your child, ask questions about what's happening to them. Reassure them and tell them that you want to keep them safe. Try to get them to see the reality of the situation they're in. Don't take it personally if at first they react with anger or they completely avoid you altogether and don't want to talk about it. They may be scared and will have gone through a process of grooming. Be open and honest with them. Don't judge them and remember that they're a victim. Due to the grooming process, children involved in criminal exploitation, they can often not see themselves as victims, which can really further complicate the issue of supporting the child to be recognised as the victim of criminal exploitation. So it's really important that you remember that they are the victim. Report all of your concerns to the police so that they can support in disrupting what's happening. And if your child goes missing, report them immediately to police and let them know that you believe the child is a victim of exploitation. You can contact social services and ask for help from them. It's really useful to gather any evidence you can. So keep a diary, keep a log of any specific incidents and concerns that happen. Anything that you've noticed, just to bring together that bigger picture and recognise patterns. There's other things you can do. For instance, encourage your child to engage in more positive activities, to think about their future. Get involved in your child's activities as well, really show an interest in them. Know who your child's friends are. Talk to your child's friends' family as well. Try as best you can to know where they're going and who they're going with. And speak to them about, the serious consequences that can occur from violent or illegal behaviour. Help them to understand the dangers of being in a gang. And find constructive alternative ways to use their time. One of the most important things is keeping those lines of communication open. You don't need to probe them, just have that curiosity, want to know about their life, want to know about what's happening for them. Be aware as well of what your child is doing online and over the internet. But most importantly, ask for help and support. There's so much help out there. There's plenty of organisations locally, nationally and online. We're all here to help and advise you, as well as being there for emotional support. So remember that you're not on your own and we're here to help.